Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and this is the season 2 finale of the HBO series The Last of Us, the show that is based on the video game of the same name. This episode is entitled Convergence, and it ends the second season of The Last of Us in a interesting way. Number one, it ends on episode 7, and that's kind of an odd number. I can see 8, 10, something like that, but it's kind of odd for it to end on the 7th episode. But hey, this is an odd show, so it all fits, and it kind of ends on twist, if you will. Not a real twist, especially if you played the games, but it ends in a way where we're switching narratives. And that's a different approach that I've seen on any other television show. It goes from the hero to the villain or the antagonist perspective by the end of this episode or season, and which is going to lead us into season 3, which I would imagine we're going to get it from the perspective of Abby. And now, it's weird for the layman, for those of us who haven't played the games, but if you played the game, it's kind of par for the course, because in the Last of Us Part 2 game, you play as Abby. There are portions of the game, a large portion of the game, that you're Abby. So it's fitting that this is what we're going to get going into season 3. And now I'm going to go over this episode and then give my overall thoughts for season 2 of The Last of Us afterwards, and then transition into what to expect in the upcoming 3rd season of The Last of Us. As I said, this episode is entitled Convergence. We pick up where we left off last episode, where last episode was the flashback episode, of course, where we went back and we got a kind of a fast forward version of a 4-year period of Joel and Ellie's relationship, how it was at its peak of happiness all the way to its valley low of disdain, well, not for one another, but on one side of Ellie, and then the reconcile. And before we can kind of dig into the way back up to their relationship, to whereas they are on one accord, we know that Joel was murdered by Abby. So we didn't get the full reconciliation, but we did get the talk. And at the end of that little memory or flashback, the last thing we saw in episode 6 was Ellie returning to the theater where Jesse and Dana are held up. And so we pick up, and Ellie has returned. She's conversing with Jesse a little while. Then she goes to find Dana, and they have a talk. And Ellie confesses to Dana what actually happened, because Dana was trying to console Ellie for the actions she had committed to what she did to Nora, and telling her that, look, she's a part of this and blah blah blah. But Ellie is she has a different view of it, as opposed to Dana, who's like, look, she got what she deserved and blah blah blah. And Ellie is like, well, maybe she didn't, and she confesses to Dana what Joel did to save her, and about the cure, and that Joel murdered Abby's father and all this other good stuff. So it's kind of like she's not this vicious killer, she's not a cold-blooded killer. This isn't the reason she's going after these people, just to snuff all of them out who was associated with Abby. She just wants Abby, and she knows that Abby's father was murdered, but it doesn't matter. You took something away from me. This is the mindset. You took something away from me, so I'm gonna take your life away. And now Ellie is in this little existential crisis, and she doesn't know how to handle it, but she's too far gone. It's too much has been lost at this point. You have Dana on this trip with her, on this path of revenge, and Jesse and Tommy have come to, I guess you could say, rescue them on their little rescue mission, risking their lives to save them. And so it's too far gone. She can't just turn back at this point. And so we get this scene not too long after the opening scene where now Ellie is talking to Jason. And I love this scene. I love their chemistry throughout this episode, Jason and Ellie. You can tell there's a level of love and respect for one another. It isn't, because they're in this love triangle. I mean, a strange love triangle. I guess strange to a lot of people, but not really. It's just, these are three people who love one another. They all three. It isn't like this is a typical trope that you find in movies and TV shows where there's a love triangle and you can find one of the pieces of that triangle that is a douchebag or something like that, and you can instantly side with our protagonist, our hero of the story. Not here, because you like Jesse. Jesse is a good guy, and even Ellie says that later on in this episode. He's a good guy, and so you can't hate him. It's hard to hate him. You really can't hate him, and he's not doing anything to whereas you would go against him or hate him. He's just caught up in this situation, and Ellie spills the beans, tells him that Dana is pregnant, and he's shocked and surprised by this. And he's like, and Ellie is like, well, oh wait, I guess I spoiled the surprise. But when she tells you, act surprised or whatever the case may be, but he took it in stride. He didn't flip out, and they have a back and forth. Jesse tells her about this group, these people who came to Jackson for a couple of weeks, or 3 days. I can't remember off the top of my head right now, but they came to Jackson, and one of the young ladies that was there, he took a liking to. He was really feeling. And when it was time for her to leave, she asked Jesse to come with her, and he didn't go, obviously, and he chose to stay because he's a loyal person. He's loyal to Jackson because Jackson gave him shelter. They raised him. They provided for him. They protected him and loved him. And they're grooming him to be the pseudo leader once this older group, moves on. And he didn't want to leave. And Ellie made fun of him because of this, like, oh, you're such a stand-up guy and blah blah blah, and he kind of hit her back with some facts. He was like, well, if I would have left with them, if I would have left with her, who would have been here to save you yesterday? And it's like real, like, yeah, you would have been dead. So that really puts the kibosh on her. All the while, nobody knows where Tommy is. Tommy got separated from everybody, but you hear on the radio, they still have the radios from the Wolves frequency, and they hear on the radio that there's a sniper taking them out, have the Wolves pinned down and whatnot. So immediately Jesse knew that was Tommy, and so they're trying to regroup and find where Tommy is. And all the while, Ellie remembers what Nora told her before she died, that where the location of Abby, and all she told her was two words: well and Will. So she figures out that she's in the aquarium, and so now while they're looking for Tommy, Ellie spots the aquarium. It dawns on her that's where Abby is. And so she wants to go off there, and Jesse is like, no, no, that's the other side of town where Tommy is, and blah blah blah. And they separate. Ellie goes on her mission, and so we see Isaac, preparing for war, I guess you could say. And he gets on the boat with a few of the wolves, and they go off on this mission in the dead of night in a storm. Ellie secures a boat. She heads out to find to find Abby, but she gets capsized. The weather is too bad, and she washes up on his island where the scars are. And the scars take her hostage or captive, I should say, and is about to string her up and gut her. Their signature move, and all of a sudden they hear the alert signs, the horns or whatever, and so they run off. And I thought, out of everything that had happened in this show, season 1 and season 2, this was the dumbest thing ever. Just looking at it logical. Yeah, the whole security force, I guess you could say, of the scars on his island are focused on a teenage girl and leaving the rest of the island subjective to being taken over. And that's what happened. Because while they were dealing with Ellie on the other side, who wasn't being combative and, resistant and nothing like that, they all over there just to string up this little girl and gut her. All the while, the wolves, they have come on the other side and took over the village. And when Ellie gets away, she's riding off, and all of a sudden you hear explosions in the background, see the fireballs and all this here, all because they were focused on the wrong thing. Now, look, I know it's a show. I know it's you suspend disbelief and detach it from reality and all that other good stuff, but it just, I don't know why that stuck out to me. Like, that was so stupid. You didn't need 12 people to subdue a 19-year-old girl. I mean, come on, man. Now, don't get me wrong. All due respect to Ellie, she is a beast after all. But come on, man. You didn't need all that. Everybody stay on their post. But these aren't soldiers. They're just a cult. So I guess I gotta roll with it, with that level of logic. And so Ellie stumbles upon the little base there, and this is a scene right out of the game. And I remember this vividly when she finds Owen, and I can't think of the other character's name. I think Mel is the other character's name. But anyway, it played out just like the game. There was a few little tweaks there, because in the game, I think Mel reveals that she's pregnant a little earlier, but that's besides the point. But it did play out the exact same way. And Ellie shoots Owen. The bullet goes through him into Mel's neck, and she bleeds out. But while she's bleeding out, she's telling Ellie to cut it out. And she's like, what are you talking about? And she pulls off her jacket, and she sees the baby bump. And she's pregnant. And this is why I appreciated the way they did it here on the show, the reveal, because like I said, in the game, she revealed it much earlier that she was pregnant. But the way, actually, I think Owen is the one that said it in the game. Like, she's pregnant. Don't do her. Don't hurt her. But here on the show, it wasn't, they did it this way. And I think the impact of it hit harder in that sense. And she's telling Ellie to cut it out, cut the baby out, and Ellie is freaking out. She's like, well, what do I do? Where do I cut? And all of a sudden the girl, she dies. And this tears Ellie apart. This tears her apart, because essentially she didn't go there to kill them. She just wants Abby. And she told Owen that, because Owen was like, look, if we show her on the map, she's going to kill us anyway. And Ellie is like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not like you. I just want Abby. That's all I want. And with his actions, him reaching for the gun, uh, two people were killed with one bullet. Actually, three people technically were killed with one bullet. you know, and that just tore Ellie apart. And, that's a hard pill to swallow. She probably could have got over Owen and Mel, but the mere fact that a baby was involved, and then you put on top of that, Dana is pregnant. So all of that is playing in her mind. And so now it's like, is the juice worth the squeeze at this point? You are tearing yourself apart mentally and spiritually. And it is like, my God, is it going to be worth it when we get to the end? Now, if it plays out like how the game is set up, no, it's not. But we'll see. We'll see if they change it for the show next season. But this is killing her mentally. I mean, she'd have did better just sitting in Jackson and licking her wounds, just soaking and getting over it with counseling or something. Because this is worse. This is worse. The quest for revenge is worse. But anywho's, Tommy and Jesse end up coming there and pulling her out of there. They came there to rescue her after Jesse said we're not coming or whatever, but they end up doing it anyway. And we get back to the theater where their, I guess, base of operations are. And I once again, I love this scene with Jesse and Ellie. Jesse is telling Ellie that, I only came because Tommy made me come. And Ellie calls him out on it, and he's like, no, not really. That's not the truth. I came because I know if it was me, you would move heaven and earth to come and get me. And it was such a beautiful moment. And for Ellie to confirm it, like, yes, I would. And it was so beautiful, only for that to be interrupted by the sounds of Tommy, shouting, and they run out of the theater. And as soon as they run out of the theater, a gunshot, boom, Jesse's dead. Jesse gets shot in the head. And once again, this plays out exactly like the game, with a subtle difference. But I must kind of put an asterisk by that, because maybe we'll see that little element in season 3 that they haven't shown. But there is something there in the game, as far as the reason why Abby is in the theater. But I'm a hold back judgment until it all plays out. But anyways, Abby sees Ellie. Ellie is confessing to her, like, look, Joel did what he did. He killed your dad because of me. If you're gonna kill somebody, kill me. Take me, because Abby has the gun on Jesse I keep saying Jesse, Tommy at this point. And Abby is freaking out. She's like, I let you live. I let you live, and you wasted it. And then she turns the gun on Ellie, and Ellie screams no, and then we just hear the gunshot. We don't know what happens at that point, but then we flash back to day 1 in Seattle, and Abby is at the whatever that stadium is, that football stadium in Seattle, where the Wolves are, I guess you could say, staging, this big old, I don't know what they're doing, but it's a lot of them. I'll tell you that much. But that's how the episode ends, and that's how the season ends, which pretty much promises that we are going to get season 3, the Abby story. We were going to get it from her perspective, and I'm not mad at it. I enjoyed this episode. Overall, this season, this was a good season. Was it as good as season 1? No. I can confess that it's not as good as season 1. It didn't have that same impact as season 1, but it was still good. I feel about this season how I felt about the Last of Us Part 2 video game. Same thing. I loved the first game. I absolutely loved it. One of my favorite games of all time. The part two, not so much, you know. I didn't have that same affinity for it. It took me forever to finally get through it, you know, because it was hard. It was more story than gameplay. And that's what kind of threw me off. But it's a lot of stories, a lot going on in part two of the game. And it's playing out the same way here on the show. The impact of losing Joel, I understand why a lot of people are kind of up in arms about that, and it's warranted. You know, I get it, especially with Pedro Pascal, a phenomenal performer as him, who just I don't know, man. I go back to previous reviews of this show when I said that when they cast him, when they announced the casting of Pedro Pascal, I was scratching my head like, why? You know, I just didn't see it. Now I can't see nobody else but him. I mean, just took this role and ran with it and owned it. And my God, he is perfect for this role. And for his character to die in this season, all last season, I felt the same way because I knew it was leading up to this. I knew that it was going to happen, and I was mad. I got mad because I knew this was coming, but it still didn't soften the blow from when it happened. And the season kind of went down after episode 2. You know, it didn't really have as much impact as it, you know, is used to having. I mean, hey, you lost the main star of the show. You know, it's going to take a while for it to get its footing, but the show never really lost footing. It just went in a different direction. It felt like two different shows, and it took a while for that to kind of sink in, you know, for my head to, you know, get it to wrap around the idea that, okay, we're doing something different, as opposed to last season. And once that clicked, I was all on board with it. Bella Ramsey, who is the star of the show now, this is her show, at least this season. She held it. She held it together. She really did. I enjoyed her this season. Isabela Merced as Dina almost stole the show. Super impressed with her. I'm gonna tell you, I've been a fan of hers since, and I know y'all gonna laugh, but I've been a fan of hers since Transformers. Was it the last night? One of those Transformers. That was my first time seeing her in something. She was much younger, and she gave a powerful performance in a movie that obviously did not deserve a powerful performance. But she was really, really good in that movie, even though the movie was trash. But from there on, I've been super impressed with her work ever since. So I'm all on board, and her addition to this show was nothing but a plus. She nailed it. Kaitlyn Dever as Abby, I thought was good. Once again, questionable casting at first because Abby in the game, if you put a picture side by side of of that character, I don't see it. But she owned it. She did a really good job, and everybody else involved. I really did like this season. Didn't love it, but I liked it a lot. And what can we expect next season? Well, I'm not going to get too deep into it because of spoilers. I don't want to spoil nothing. But like I said, I think we're going to get the Abby perspective. This is going to be the Abby season next season. And that's not a bad thing because there's a lot of interesting storytelling that could come from her character. Going by the game, which this show has proven they're going to stick to. And it's going to be interesting. Will it be exciting? I don't know. We shall see. Another point I wanted to make about this season, I know there's a lot of discourse about there was no infected this season. There really was. There was I can count on one hand, and that's not saying much because it's only 7 episodes, but you can count on one hand how many episodes had infected in it. For example, this season finale, episode 7, not one infected. I think last week's episode 6, didn't have an infected. We saw the aftermath of Eugene being bit, but we didn't see an infected. And there was a few other episodes in this season. I'm telling you, maybe 3, possibly 4, but I think they lumped them all into that second episode when we had the big Lord of the Rings, the Two Towers type battle in Jackson with all of the infected. But after that, it was scarce, very scarce. You know, we did get introduced to a new kind of infected, what they call stalkers, the more intelligent infected, but we really haven't delved deep into that. Like I said, it was lacking in a lot of areas, but I will say I enjoyed it nonetheless. It's a fun show to watch, a good show. I mean, the acting is top notch, the writing and the direction, everything is top notch. It's just it's lacking something, and I'm not talking Joel. I'm talking like substance, like the reason we're here. You know, this is a post-apocalyptic world that we're living in, and we're not experiencing the reason for the apocalypse. You know, this infective a lot. I'm not saying it should be a horror show. It doesn't have to be Walking Dead. Even Walking Dead didn't have zombies in every single episode, but you know, the presence was looming. That's not even the threat. The threat here is the human beings, and I get it. I get the storytelling aspect of that, but you still want to see them. You know, you still want to experience them. But it's all good. Like I said, I'm looking forward to a interesting season 3. I'm still invested in this show. In spite of my flaws from this season and the untimely demise of the main star of the show, I'm still invested because you still got some powerful actors and actresses in a part of this show. Jeffrey Wright, Kaitlyn Dever, Bella Ramsey, Isabela Merced, Gabriel Luna. There's still a lot there, so I'm not worried about that. But I am a little worried about the Abby aspect of it, you know, because I don't want to get Ellie lost in the sauce here, you know. Yeah, I want to see Abby's story, but I don't want Ellie's story to take a back seat, you know. And we'll see. But overall, I enjoyed it. I think this season is a really good season. Not as good as the first season, but entertaining nonetheless. The Last of Us season 2 just wrapped up. All 7 episodes. Gets a letter grade of a B-. Yes, it was really, really good. Wish it had a little bit more infected. Wish that we would have got a little bit more scars, a little more backstory about that group, and you know, it's there, but I'm pretty sure we'll get it in season 3. But I would have liked to have seen it this season. That way, in season 3, we won't have to go through all of the backstories and the setups and all this here. It's already set up, and we can get into season 3, and it's boom, 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 boom. You know, but I'm not running the show. These guys and gals are doing a phenomenal job so far. They haven't let me down so far. They're sticking to the game, so I'm not mad at them. But I would like to know, what did you think of season 2 of The Last of Us that just wrapped up? Did you enjoy it? Did you check out after the second episode like a vast majority of the world did? Or did you stick with it? And what were your thoughts if you did? Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also search for the show on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Also, don't forget about YouTube. Subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel and like this video if you don't mind. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for the entire season as we reviewed every single episode of season 2. I had a good time with this show. I enjoyed every single episode. Even though I had my thoughts, I still enjoyed it, and I thank you all for hanging with me throughout this season. We're not going anywhere. The season ended for The Last of Us, but here on the KB Radio Network, we're not going anywhere. There's still a lot of content for you to enjoy on all platforms, and I thank you once again. I want you all to know that I love you. Continue to love everyone, and until we speak again, you all be blessed.